Tonight, Trump's tariffs take a bite out of Canada's labor market. Growing uncertainty and rising unemployment.
Slightly concerned because of the job market here being very bad compared to previous years.
Which sectors are suffering the most as we look for a summer financial forecast? Pope Leo's first Mass.
You have called me to carry that cross and to be blessed with that mission.
Learning about the pontiff through the eyes of Canadian cardinals in Rome. Also, who could be tapped for the Prime Minister's front bench and the election recounts in 2 ridings. Plus, a world first by Canadian researchers.
Whatever you have, whatever you need, I'm there. Whatever you need to do to me, I'm there.
The new helmet bringing hope to patients and doctors in the fight against ALS.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. We're seeing signs of weakness in the Canadian labor market with a new jobs report revealing the heavy toll of U.S. tariffs and the trade war. The unemployment rate jumped to 6.9%, the highest in 6 months. CTV's John Van-Valley-Rao breaks down the numbers for us.
Just a week after GM announced more than 700 workers will be laid off at this auto plant in Oshawa, Ontario, another ominous sign that Trump's tariffs are taking a bite. With the latest jobs report showing the country lost 31,000 manufacturing jobs in April, the bulk of them in Ontario.
I really think the blame for this negative number today rests squarely on one set of shoulders, and that's the U.S. president.
In a month where another big automaker, Stellantis, temporarily shut down a plant in Windsor, Ontario for 2 weeks because of U.S. tariffs on imported vehicles, unemployment in Windsor shot up in April to 10.7%. in an area where the auto sector accounts for 4 out of every 10 manufacturing jobs. Nationally, the economy added a better-than-expected 7,000 jobs, though most of it related to temporary hiring during the federal election.
Without that, we would have had a big decline in general employment in Canada, especially led by the manufacturing sector.
With tariffs imposed on cars, steel, aluminum, and other products, the Bank of Canada has warned growth could slow as exports drop, prices rise, and jobs are lost, with the steel industry already hit with layoffs.
So on the production side, we know of at least hundreds of jobs that have thus far been lost.
Overall, in April, the unemployment rate went up from 6.7 to 6.9%.
I don't see any way we don't hit 7% next month. Could we touch 7.5 by the end of the summer? It's possible.
For university students, it is a source of worry.
Slightly concerned because of the job market here being very bad compared to previous years.
Meanwhile, the rise in the unemployment rate makes it more likely the Bank of Canada will further cut interest rates next month in an effort to boost the economy. John Van-Valley-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
Late-breaking news to share tonight. Pakistan says it has retaliated to Indian attacks, extending the worst fighting between the nuclear-armed neighbors in nearly 3 decades.
Today on 10th.
Pakistan's military released this video that showed missiles being launched from an undisclosed location. The country says it has struck back after India fired at its military bases earlier today. Locked in a long-standing dispute over Kashmir, the 2 countries have engaged in daily clashes since Wednesday. Pope Leo led his first Mass after making history, becoming the first American pontiff to lead the Catholic Church. Canadian cardinals consider him to be compassionate and say they were not focused on his nationality. They spoke for the first time since the conclave. CTV's Geneviève Boschman met with the cardinals in Rome today. What all did they share, Geneviève?
Yes, Heather, the conclave is held in secret, of course, but the Canadian cardinals had some insight to share about the new pope.
Pope Leo XIV led the first full Mass of his papacy. And the first American pope began his homily in English.
You have called me to carry that cross and to be blessed with that mission.
This after speaking Italian and Spanish when he was first introduced to the world at St. Peter's Square yesterday.
We pray together, we share, we walk together, we have coffee and donuts and good Italian pastries.
Quebec Cardinal Gérard Lacroix says he has spent some time with the new Pope and that he has the qualities needed to unite the Church and speak to the world.
You get to see who this man is. You see how he is with others. He talks with everybody.
Pilgrims and tourists milling about on St. Peter's Square were abuzz with news of Leo XIV's nationality today.
I think the fact that he's the first American pope is very exciting, and I hope that the Italians feel the same way.
Not all do, and many analysts had concluded a U.S. pontiff from a military and economic superpower was unthinkable. But Canadian cardinals say he is a universal man who has worked as a missionary in Peru, lived in Rome, and traveled the world.
I don't think anyone really thought of him as an American.
Cardinal Thomas Collins is the retired Archbishop of Toronto.
I don't think anyone thought. The person I'm voting for who is an American.
This was Cardinal Collins' second conclave. 24 hours and 21 minutes. That's how long the cardinals were secluded. A time of deep reflection, say Canada's cardinals, who felt the weight of responsibility as they voted in the Sistine Chapel.
A ritual that is steeped deep in history, and yet has a great significance for people today.
The inaugural Mass in honor of the new Pope is expected to be held on March 18th here at St. Peter's Square. That is expected to be packed once again. Heather.
Javier Bushman in Vatican City. Indigenous leaders are welcoming the new Pope and hoping he continues on the road to reconciliation in this country started by his predecessor.
I hope that we can work on reconciliation together, continue on the hard work that the late Pope had left for us to finish, and there's lots of work to do.
National Chief Cindy Woodhouse says there are many important topics beyond reconciliation that need to be discussed with the new Pope, including calls to repatriate Indigenous artifacts from the Vatican's collection and more education around the Church's role in the residential school system. Rideau Hall confirmed today the Prime Minister's new cabinet will be sworn in next Tuesday. Mark Carney will unveil to Canadians who he has picked to lead key files at a pivotal time for this country. CTV's Rachel Aiello on who could be in or out.
The Prime Minister is putting the finishing touches on his front bench. Plans are now in place for Mark Carney's new cabinet to be sworn in at Rideau Hall on Tuesday. In anticipation, speculation is swirling about which new recruits could become ministers and who from the old guard could be shuffled out.
You have to balance old and new and make certain that, you don't want a cabinet of complete green rookies, but on the other hand, you definitely want to signal change.
Among the fresh Liberal faces to keep an eye on, ex-Carney advisor Tim Hodgson, École Polytechnique shooting survivor Natalie Provost, former Quebec Finance Minister Carlos Leto, economist Caroline DeRoche, and ex-Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson. Questions are also being raised about which current ministers may be reassigned or who may be in too hot of a file right now to move.
Mark Carney should consider this a war cabinet because the reality is we're in a tariff war with the United States. And that's making sure that the right people are in the right positions.
Among the veterans to watch, Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne, International Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly, Industry Minister Anita Anand, and Internal Trade Minister Chrystia Freeland. Carney has committed to upholding gender parity, and now with seats in all provinces and 2 of the 3 territories, he could have an easier time than his predecessor when it comes to regional representation. But he wouldn't say when asked last week if his new cabinet will be bigger than his pre-election selection.
I committed to an efficient cabinet, a focused cabinet. Those final decisions haven't been made.
With Parliament coming back in 2 weeks, Canada hosting the G7 in June, and the Liberals promising to break down interprovincial trade barriers by July 1st, Carney's promised efficiency will be put to the test as soon as the swearing-in wraps up. Heather?
Rachel Aiello in Ottawa. 2 recounts were announced today in a federal election where the Liberals sit just 3 seats shy of a majority. Liberal candidate Eric Kuzmierczak lost by 77 votes to Conservative Kathy Borelli in a Windsor riding. A judge ruled today that a recount should be held. And in the Newfoundland riding of Terra Nova, the Peninsulas, where Liberal Anthony Germain sits just 12 votes ahead of Conservative Jonathan Rowe, Elections Canada says a judicial recount will also be held.
I, John Joseph Hogan, KC, do swear.
John Hogan was sworn in today as the new Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador. The 47-year-old lawyer was elected to lead the governing Liberals at a convention last weekend. He also announced his new cabinet. The province must hold its next election by October. 2 young siblings in Nova Scotia disappeared from their Pictou County home without a trace exactly a week ago. Their family is still holding out hope they will be found.
The last of RCMP in the area that I've seen, they were at Lansdowne Lake, and they told me that they scoured the lake, divers, and sonared the lake, and there's no evidence at all. If they were in this area, would have found them. My family's still searching.
Search crews left yesterday after 6 days of scouring the heavily wooded area using drones and helicopters. 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and her brother Jack are believed to have wandered into the woods near their house. A lawyer for one of the 5 former World Junior hockey players charged with sexual assault challenged the complainant's testimony in court today. The lawyer for Alex Formenton used videos and past statements to try and show discrepancies in what the woman said happened at the bar on that night in 2018. The defense says video shows EM buying 2 shots when she had said the men bought her drinks, and showed the jury the bar's shot glasses, which only hold half an ounce. EM said she felt drunk and that she couldn't remember every single second of the evening. The 5 men are accused of sexually assaulting her in a hotel room later that night. They have all pleaded not guilty. Measles cases across the country soared this week in Ontario, Alberta, and now Saskatchewan. The outbreaks fueled by low immunization rates. CTV's Alison Bamford looks at the latest on infections as the virus spreads across Canada.
Once considered eliminated, the measles now unrelenting.
A single case can impact up to 20 unvaccinated people.
Saskatchewan doubled its measles case count this week, reaching 27 infections. 3/4 of the cases are in children, the youngest a 5-month-old. All but 1 were unvaccinated.
We have opened additional public health clinics to make sure that children especially have access to update their shots.
Pockets of low vaccination rates, especially in rural communities, are fueling transmission in Ontario. That province recorded nearly 200 new infections this week, reaching a total of 1,440. Alberta surpassed the 300 mark, while Quebec has declared its outbreak is over. Provinces like Ontario and New Brunswick require proof of immunization for kids to attend school. This week, 920 students in the Waterloo region were suspended because their vaccination records were out of date.
For children and infants in Ontario, we're absolutely recommending the 2 doses of measles vaccine. It gives 97% protection.
Routine measles vaccines are typically administered at 12 months and again at 18 months. This week, Alberta Medical Association hosted a panel to guide parents through the outbreak and raise vaccine awareness.
Children can get brain inflammation or encephalitis from measles, and this can cause long-term disability in those children.
Doctors recommend children who missed their routine vaccinations still receive 2 doses. Susceptible adults born after 1970 should get at least 1 dose if they're unvaccinated, and those born before 1970 are considered to have natural immunity. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Coming up, a world first in health research.
Our interventions have a chance of really making a difference in this awful disease.
The helmet designed by Canadians to help treat ALS. There is renewed hope tonight in the fight against ALS, a deadly, debilitating disease. A new study is using a Canadian-designed ultrasound helmet to deliver medication into the brain. It's a world first. Here's CTV's Avis Favreau on the unique approach.
Every step for Bill Traynor is a struggle.
his muscles weakening from ALS. Devastating for a former scuba diver and skier. And with existing medications offering little hope, Bill now wants to help scientists change how ALS is treated as part of a world-first study.
I said, whatever you have, whatever you need, I'm there. Whatever you need to do to me, I'm there. I'll do anything to help people cure this.
This is a key, a made-in-Canada helmet that produces low-dose ultrasound. It passes through the skull and temporarily opens a protective membrane around the brain. That barrier usually stops medications from reaching brain tissue.
This is a very exciting day for the ALS community because for the first time ever, we're creating this temporary therapeutic window where our interventions have a chance of really making a difference in this awful disease.
The study begins with Bill getting an IV, a medication that reduces inflammation, often seen in ALS patients, but it doesn't naturally cross that brain barrier. Then doctors place him in the helmet. The ultrasound is activated, and doctors watch to see whether the medication flows to where it's needed.
It's tailored to the patient. Each location of the brain gets the right exposure. And that there's no other device that can do that.
Bill is the first of 6 ALS patients who are part of the study, as doctors watch to see if their brain inflammation lowers and their symptoms improve. Researchers at Toronto's Sunnybrook Hospital are already working on the next focused ultrasound helmet that will be more portable, planning studies to see if it will help improve chemotherapy delivery for brain tumors and as a possible tool to treat Alzheimer's.
There's a lot of excitement going on because there's lots of brilliant new approaches. To me, the most exciting one is the focused ultrasound because you're breaking the blood-brain barrier.
Right there.
And the first test on Bill was a success.
And this area that is brighter is exactly the area that we disrupt the blood-brain barrier.
Scans showed the ultrasound helmet opened the correct targets, those white spots, and the medication was now likely flowing in. And while researchers monitor the effects in the coming months, Bill Traynor says this study has given him new purpose.
I knew there was no guarantee, but I didn't care. I have so much more to live for.
Avis Favreau, CTV News, Toronto.
A raging wildfire in northern Manitoba has forced several communities to flee their homes.
Just go, Mom, just go.
Officials say winds picked up and fueled the fire overnight, with people in the areas near the Paw forced to evacuate. More than 350 people have been brought to safety, and the number is expected to rise. And tonight, a Newfoundland community is slowly returning home after a devastating wildfire forced them out 2 days ago.
It was kind of like, out of a movie. The two of them jumped on the back of the bikes and we took off. They were in trouble and we were just on time because when I see it now, there's no way we would have gotten through.
Pauline White and her friend raced on ATVs to rescue family trapped in their house surrounded by fire. White has a home to go back to, but many don't, as the Adams Cove fire destroyed more than 45 structures in its path. Still ahead, Trump's point-blank message.
And I say, get this stupid war finished. That's my message for both of them.
Plus, the European show of solidarity in Kyiv as Russia flexes its military muscle. Wars of the past and present were tied together by Russian President Vladimir Putin today as he hosted Chinese President Xi Jinping in Moscow's Red Square. The two leaders watched the grand parade marking the 80th anniversary of the victory over Nazi Germany in the Soviet Union's Great Patriotic War. There was heightened security at the event after days of Ukrainian drone strikes targeting Moscow. Putin declared all of Russia was behind the military operation in Ukraine. And hours after Russia's show of its military might, European solidarity with Ukraine was on display. Late tonight, the leaders of France, Britain and Germany hopped on a train to Kyiv to hold talks with the Ukrainian president. They will discuss a U.S. and European proposal for a month-long ceasefire. Meanwhile, both countries locked in war for 3 years received a message from the U.S. president.
I say, get this stupid war finished. That's my message for both of them.
Mexico is suing tech giant Google for adopting Donald Trump's labeling of the Gulf of Mexico on its maps. The country argues Donald Trump's policy of calling the body of water Gulf of America should only apply to the part within American territory. But currently, the entire Gulf appears as the Gulf of America for users in the U.S. Still ahead, added beauty in Fredericton. We meet the new Canadians adding a touch of color to their new home. We leave you tonight with the colorful work of artists who are new to this country, using their talents to create connections and brighten outdoor spaces in their new home. Here's CTV's Sarah Plowman.
River trails in Fredericton that offer a front seat to beauty are now dotted with a dose of color, like these garbage cans or benches, brought to life at the Multicultural Association of Fredericton, where newcomers put their mark on public art in a bid to beautify the city and set roots.
It's a really tangible way to say, like, I've laid claim to part of the city, like the city, I belong to the city.
Ahmed Sir Al-Khani's bench is nearly ready.
I didn't expect that it comes out like this, but it's very beautiful.
The 26-year-old left Afghanistan after the Taliban took over nearly 4 years ago, but brought memories with him of flowers and leaves like these that symbolize spring.
Very famous, it's very popular in Afghanistan.
As his bench takes shape, so does Joyce's from Lebanon, too shy to speak but happy to showcase her art.
That's the tree on the flag of Lebanon. It's the Lebanese cedar.
2 of more than 24 benches done in a 3-year project led by Misha Milchenko, an artist and English teacher.
I like to merge my jobs as much as I can.
So here, both skills improve. Helpful to Al-Khani, who works full-time at a hotel and studies English 4 days a week.
It's very interesting to me to learn English, and I'm trying very hard.
And soon it'll be interesting to see how people will appreciate the bench he made.
They will sit on it and they will see this amazing design.
Parking a piece of oneself in the heart of a new home. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
Some beautiful pieces. That is our newscast for this Friday night. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.